a way to gain an audience. You talk about UTVs.
Yeah.
And then we actually have, it's like, then we get to have
There's a
people.
few here, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
You know, I'll get an even bigger crowd than that. You talk sidewalk district.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, these.
Wait a minute, all these people aren't here for the audit report? I bet they are.
News to me.
We're just assuming things.
Brian, you're the only one that gets that excited about an audit.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's only 5:59.
Oh, I'm sorry. The computer says six.
That's all right.
Fine. Oh, there it went 6. Okay, well, go ahead and call it over. The city council regular business meeting for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. It is 6 p.m. Lindsay, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Poole,
Here.
Livingston, Meineke, Mayor Phillips.
I am here as well. We do have a quorum, so we'll move on. Item number 2 is pledge of allegiance. So would you please rise and say the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda due to a request that we've gotten. We're going to remove item 8B from tonight's agenda. Would anybody like like to move any of the other consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion.
Okay, motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number 4 is a dedicated work session. So this is a dedicated work session for myself and council. The regular council meeting is going to begin following this work session. Tonight's topic is the UTV task force. We tried something a little different with the topic of UTVs. Many of our council members understand the background and input that we've had from people in the community. However, we have a couple members that don't have that same background. Last time we discussed this issue, we had some frustration that the presentation of materials was one-sided. The creation of the task force allowed us to formulate a group that included people that were for and against allowing UTVs on city streets. So tonight we get to hear from both perspectives. As I understand that there are several people addressing council from this task force. It's important for council members to understand that this is a work session. There's no expectation of a decision as a result of this presentation. Your option to move forward with action will be to add something to a future agenda for consideration. So that would take place at the end of this meeting under item 9, future agenda items. With all that said, I'd like to thank the task force for the time you put into researching this issue. Carol Hardy, I believe that you're going to get things started for us. I'll turn it over to you. You can come up and. You could state your name and address just for the record.
Carol Hardy, 5313 Clearwater Drive in Lakewood. So I was here, a couple of months ago talking about reconsidering allowing UTVs in the city of Norwalk. And then you guys had mentioned doing a task group, which I thought was a great idea. And to be honest with you, 8 of us came together of diverse opinions. And I think we did a really, really good job of researching the facts. The very first thing that we did was, actually I should advance my slides here. Let me see here. There we go. All right. So you've already stated the purpose of our task force, and it was just to research, finding out how everybody felt, why they felt that way, what are the facts around it. I've got the task force folks' names up there. And then our request for today is, again, just to ask questions when you guys have questions, and then ultimately put this on an agenda for a decision at some point. So the first thing that we did is the first thing that we realized when we all came together was that we need to define what we're talking about. ATVs, UTVs, OHVs, blah, blah, blah. So as you can see here, we just did a quick definition of the ATVs, UTVs, OHV is really just a term that is like a overarching term that that basically speaks to all off highway vehicles. So that might mean an ATV, a UTV, a motorcycle, you know, a dirt bike, all of those types of things are OHV. And if you think about it, you've probably heard of OHV parks. That's why they're called that, because they're for off highway vehicles. And then the DNR is on here, just as a definition, because also the DNR is the agency in Iowa that's responsible for registering all of the process of registering ATVs and UTVs. So nothing has to be done by the city. It's all handled. So more specifically, ATV definition here, also known as quads, four-wheelers. These are equipped with a straddle type of a seat where you have the rider and maybe one other person behind you. They're steered by handlebars, and they have no doors, no roof, no roll cage. On these, usually helmets are always required, like if you're in a park. So that's the ATVs, and then you can see some different pictures of them. The UTVs are also known as utility terrain or task vehicles, also side-by-sides. And these are equipped with a bench or bucket seats with factory installed seat belts. They are steered with a steering wheel. They have brake pedals. They all have a, what is it, chrome molly? Thank you. A chrome molly roll cage. And often they have roofs and nets or windows, and then also windshields. Not all of them have those, but a lot of them do. And then for UTVs, helmets are rarely required. In Iowa, of course, we don't have a helmet law, so they're never required in there. But some of them, like you see the lower right-hand picture, it really, I think, depends upon the terrain that they might be riding on, and the riders can decide if they're, you know, they want to wear a helmet or not. And also if they don't have a windshield, maybe they'll opt to wear goggles, you know, just to protect their eyes. So we clearly defined ATVs and UTVs. And so everybody understood these are what we're talking about. We're not talking about permission for ATVs, only UTVs. So once we got that part done, then we talked about some other facts. Facts from the law that the driver has to be 18 years old. They have to be licensed. They have to be fully insured. The maximum speed that they can go on any roadway that's approved is 35 miles an hour. They have to wear their seat belts, and if they're children, everybody, I guess, really needs to follow the Iowa laws for safety belts. And so if they're a child under a certain age, they have to be in a car seat, in a rear facing car seat, and a booster seat, whatever. So the parents would be responsible, I guess, for, you know, making sure that their child is wearing the way they should be. If they have doors, if they have nets for doors, those should be closed. We also talked about cargo restraints, because a lot of these UTVs have a cargo part in the back, like a pickup almost. Some of them have like a dump box. And so same thing applies, because these are considered like a vehicle. So if you have a load back there, you have to make sure it's covered or, you know, tied down or something. People cannot ride back there. You can't have a child back there. You can't have anybody back there in that cargo area, just like you can't in a pickup either. So we talked about that. We also talked about the fact that the UTVs have to be registered by the DNR. That's the state law. And we also talked about noise levels, because, you know, sometimes we all hear them, you know, we could hear a loud car, a loud pickup or whatever. And in our research, we looked at the city of Marion actually did a noise study themselves. And they used 3 different UTVs as an example. And I think that was in the materials that you guys previously got. And it just kind of showed, you know, where the UTV sounds decibel wise compares to everything else. And it really does fall right in line with, you know, with cars and trucks. Interestingly enough, this study was done at 35 miles an hour. And so when they dropped it to 25, which is what most city streets are, it dropped by another 7 decibels. So I thought that was really interesting that they did that, and we appreciated that for sure. So the next thing that we did was we really started researching the Iowa code that's been approved, and that was approved in July of 2022. So I think this is a really good time to take a look. And so what we did is we did some research and found a lot of cities that have already adopted an ordinance and just asked them, how's it going? What did you guys do? What were the concerns? And to be honest with you guys, I mean, we talked to police chiefs, we talked to police officers, we talked to city managers, city clerks, and there was really nothing. I mean, Ankeny, when we talked to them, they said that they had to redirect a couple of people off of the unapproved roads. When I talked to Grimes, they said that they had some issues with people being on their bike paths up there because they have quite a few bike paths and trail systems up there. So they had to make sure that, they had to remind people that they can't do that. But other than that, those are the only two people that I've talked to that had any feedback of a negative way. And it wasn't really anything. Interestingly enough, just recently, Polk City, they passed their ordinance. And that was the most recent one around this area. And the person that I talked to up there, they said that in the very beginning, the council was pretty much dead against it. And I don't know what all happened or what transpired, but it ended up passing. And there was quite a few townspeople also that were against it. But since passing it, it's like a non-issue. They don't know what the big hype was, because it's really been not a big deal at all. So anyway, so that was interesting. And the different towns that we researched were not just like small towns around here in Warren County. What we really looked at and tried to pay attention more to were the towns that are more similar in size to Norwalk and proximity to a larger metropolitan area. So, we did look at Indianola, we looked at Polk City, Grimes, Adel. Gosh, what are some of the other ones, guys? I can't think off the top of my head, but oh yeah, City of Marion, Davenport, Council Bluffs, Decorah just passed theirs, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So that was all very good research and very interesting research. The other thing that we identified when we were doing that research is that every ordinance is so different. Some of them were very short because they just referred basically to the Iowa code. It's like, yes, we approve these, refer to the Iowa code for the majority of it. Other ones pulled a lot of pieces out of the Iowa code and put it in their ordinance. The thing is that the Iowa code is written to apply to ATVs and UTVs. So to just refer carte blanche to the Iowa code for us won't work because we're talking only UTVs. So we'll have to pull just pieces out that apply to UTVs. And interestingly enough, almost all of these ordinances that we looked at apply to ATVs, UTVs, and snowmobiles. Almost every single one of them. They just wrapped their arms around it and said, well, I guess if the state says, okay, okay. So I was really surprised about that. I think Polk City kept it just or I think they just kept it UTVs, but everybody else, it's the whole ball of wax. So, let me see. Next, we talked about, all right, so let's say that we'd pass something here in Norwalk. What would that look like? And what kinds of things would we want to make sure happen? One is that we all agreed to keep it simple because in some of these ordinances, they got pretty complicated. You can drive on this street from here to here. You can drive on this street from here to here. You can't drive on this street. And so when we were talking, and Drew, I don't think is here tonight, but he was just like, we just got to keep it simple. And we don't want to make it complicated for not only the operators, but also the law enforcement folks too. So we all agreed on that. So Highway 28, one thing in the law, it says that divided 4-lane state highways are prohibited. So for us, that would mean from County Line Road to the north, down to Gordon, which is right there by Methodist Church, that would be prohibited. With the exception of if you have anyone who lives or has a business on that roadway, and that's the only way in and out of their residence or their business, they have permission to just drive just as far as they have to get to the next road. So like, as Luke and I were talking about this the other day, the Lakewood Village Association office, the only way in and out of that is on Highway 28. So what they would do is they would go right up to Lakewood Drive, and that would be their first road that they could get off, and then they could get to where they needed to go, through the back streets. We also talked about, ironically, the law does not speak to turn signals. So they talk about the law requires, brake lights, headlights, all of that kind of stuff, rear view mirror, horn, but not turn signals. So we all agreed that turn signals would be a must. As you saw, some of those pictures, they had windows and doors in those UTVs. I mean, what's the likelihood that somebody's gonna roll down their window and stick their arm out if they need to signal? So obviously, then that just makes sense. We also talked about making sure that bike paths are prohibited, sidewalks are prohibited, grassy areas of city parks are prohibited, obviously. So we don't want anybody driving on grass. And then also, the other thing that we talked about was a speed limit. So the Iowa speed limit is 35 miles an hour. And I think that there was some confusion in the beginning that, oh, well, so you can't drive on any road if it's got a speed limit of more than 35, but that's not true. They just can't go more than 35 miles an hour. So they can be on a 45 mile an hour, a 50, 55 mile an hour street. They just are going to be limited at 35. So we thought, okay, well, what's the concerns about that? Probably no more concerns than when you run across a bicycle, a moped, a tractor, a combine, or anything like that on some of those other roads. And so we agree again, like you wouldn't want to limit that here, because the other thing too is that every artery that we have going outside of Norwalk has a graduated speed posted. So it's 25, 35, 45, 50, 50, whatever, So if you limit it to only 35 mile an hour posted speed limit, you're going to lock people in and you're going to lock people out, which is absolutely the opposite of what we're trying to do here. We also talked about UTVs for ag purposes. So we're in the process of annexing a large part of land just southwest of here, which is a lot of farmland right now. So if a farmer has, their one field here and another field a mile away, once we get that area annexed, they cannot legally drive from one field to the other because it's going to be within the city limits. So that's going to restrict them as well. And then the other thing we talked about was economic impact, and it's not going to be significant. We were, it wasn't like a reason for, saying yay or nay to this. It will help because right now you have people that are very close to the city limits that are going to Indianola, Martinsdale, Bevington for dinner, for car wash, for gas, that type of thing, when they could just come right in here and have it, people inside the city could just run over to, Fairway, go take their kids up to Wendy's for ice cream or whatever. So we're not talking significant dollars, but every dollar helps, right? So that was that. And that brings us to the last page of, what we're asking is to hopefully that you guys will choose to put this on an agenda for action. And then also, if and when that happens, that we would love to be able to be at the table with whoever as the ordinance is written, and we can definitely share that research that we've done. And because it is kind of dicey, I'm not gonna lie, again, because it was written for ATVs and UTVs. So you kind of really got to pay attention to what they're saying and what it's saying. And we've got links to all of those different ordinances that we looked at from different cities. All those different ordinances have, some really good things that would be great to include in ours, and other ones are like, doesn't make sense for us. So anyway, with that, I don't know if any of the group wants to say anything.
Stephanie Riva, 3720 Blue Sky Road, Norwalk. As you may or may not remember, I was an anti-UTV person. So I was representing, I guess, that opinion, and I got on this task force. And I will say that I changed my mind. It was a unanimous vote to recommend this ordinance. The research that was done, talking to the other cities, hearing what their chiefs said, finding that it was a non-issue gave me great comfort. It also gave me great comfort that we were only talking about UTVs and not ATVs. Most snowmobiles, we're just talking about UTVs. So I think that it'll work well. I also know that as council, if things are not working well, if you choose to have Chief Staples give a report, maybe in a year, sort of like fireworks, saying, how's it going? And if he says it's horrible, you have the ability to repeal or change the ordinance. So you had that, but I think that it's worth giving a trial period, see if this works out. There's one thing, I'm sorry, I didn't notice on your PowerPoint. We did talk about no UTVs on city land, public land.
Oh, yes.
And the reason for that, for me, importantly for me, is Serenity Woods. When it is eventually developed, we don't want UTVs in where people are hiking in the woods and all that, those trails. And the only other thing is that we did talk about economic impact, and I was probably the only person that wasn't really excited about the economic impact as far as being a reason. It will bring some economic benefit to Norwalk, but we're not talking about hundreds of UTVs coming to town, so it won't make an appreciable difference. But it's always nice to have a little extra income for the restaurants, but it was not for me the deciding factor in making this recommendation.
Questions?
I do have a couple questions. So, I'm not saying you should modify your recommendation, but I would like to know why you decided not to include ATVs and snowmobiles. And if the reasons are different, I would just be interested in knowing that.
Well, I guess it was really, we just followed what we initially asked. We thought that UTVs were, oh, maybe we stood a better chance at UTVs just because we know how, I mean, there's a lot of people, I think, that are very against ATVs. They don't have turn signals for one thing. I don't know, as far as like how loud they are, I mean, I think it's about the same as UTVs. So I guess I don't really have a good, answer. And I think snowmobiles are already allowed, right? In Norwalk.
They are.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to go around in town like we're talking about UTVs here. They're allowed to take the most direct path between a residence and out of town.
I had a question, I guess, that when we discussed this last time, I'm one of the holdovers. And one of the things that we discussed with the manufacturer's recommendations and some of the studies that were done by the universities here, I think University of Iowa, I believe, did one. And I wondered if there were any updates on the recommendations or, what they've had to say.
They said, be more specific. It was like across the board, the manufacturers said these are under no circumstances to be driven on pavement.
Avoid operating.
They
in public
said
areas.
that over and over again.
Right.
Oh, boy, that's different than under no circumstances.
Some of them were very explicit.
But I wondered if that had changed since we looked at it last time.
I know, yeah, there
I
was a
believe
lot.
that study, that was referencing ATVs. They were inherently unsafe and they were very prone to tipping over if they were going from one surface to the other surface.
I got it.
And there were a lot more injuries and fatalities on ATVs, and that's why.
I don't remember for sure. I guess I'd want to make sure I had that clear in my mind, but I appreciate it.
It would be odd, in my opinion anyway, that the state would, in the state, when they created that law, and I talked to the gentleman who was on the OHV advisory board, who worked with the DOT and the DNR to create the code a few years back. And that was not, I mean, I can't imagine. Why would they pass a law so controversial if that was such a huge, huge issue?
You wouldn't think they would.
But, we're
But-
talking about.
Surprised by the state.
We've been surprised by the legislature before. I guess my only comment, ma'am, would be for me, having an update on that and for knowing for sure, right, how that applied today, right?
Yeah.
That would be a key part of any decision I make, to be honest about it.
Sure. And I think Stephanie made a good point, we're talking, with UTVs, the roll cage that's on there, the seat belts that are on there, you do not have that on ATVs. And you don't have them on snowmobiles.
Right.
You did mention insurance. is it, the exact same requirements for vehicles? Is it the same type of liability, medical, theft, everything, not just comprehensive for the price of the?
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's liability insurance and it's.
And the
I think it's
DNR
very
actually
important.
monitors that?
Well, I mean, whoever monitors it, like, you know,
That's DOT.
right. But,
DMV.
but I mean, if we get stopped by a policeman, they're gonna want to see our driver's license to show that we're 18, and they're gonna want to see our insurance.
And then we also look for our sticker that the DNR provides on the back.
The other thing that I remember distinctly, the main reason I didn't want to, vote for it last time is because of the people in Lexington. For example, if you want to drive from Arby's to City Hall, there is one road that traverses Norwalk and Lakewood, and that's Lexington. You can't go on Highway 28. So that's it. I knew that there would be loud, quote unquote, who knows? 10 decibels is roughly in your mind saying that's twice as loud. And that's why it goes so fast from whispering to minimal talking to motorcycles, all within 10 decibels. But Lexington, I don't believe there's another road. If
Yeah,
there is.
there's another one, but
Oh, yeah.
it's
Which
a
one?
service road.
From the Eaton Crest.
Yeah, Cedar goes.
Out to the.
All the way to Cedar. That's
Cedar,
true.
80th, 50th.
And well, I wasn't counting 80th and 50th.
Oh, yeah,
That's true.
yeah. Yeah, and you'd cross over the highway to go to, you know,
Yeah,
wherever.
Well,
City's building
Beardsley,
new roads all the time, you
yeah,
know.
to 50th and that, 50th and 80th I knew, but I knew Lexington was gonna get bombarded.
Yeah, and I think, you know, bombarded,
Cedar and Lexington, at least that's two.
And
Could,
our Mary Kennedy, 520 Crescent Lane. The other thing I want to say with the decibels, I guarantee you, our motorcycle is a lot louder in decibels
Everyone's
Then-
motorcycle is a lot.
than our ATV is.
You're not making an
So-
argument that's good.
You know, but just in that, you know, we go up and down, you know, we go Lexington, you know, to go places as well. And so I don't look at that. I don't look at I think the ATVs, the four-wheelers are much louder than the UTVs in that respect. Because we've ridden ours around and there's times where you don't hear us, but then you can always tell when you're out and about, when like we've gone on big rides, you can always tell when the four-wheeler's coming up behind you.
Wow.
So,
The other big factor is, we saw a list of all of them that was for it. The problem is our neighbors, West Des Moines, Urbandale, and Clive are not.
Ankeny is, I'm sorry.
Ankeny is, they're not actually our neighbors.
They are.
But all of the, Des Moines isn't hardly anymore rural adjacent. I mean, we are still we're surrounded by rural, right? And at least the initial point of this was, you know, we don't want to just joyride around the city. We want to be able to go from here to there, right? And so
Okay.
places like, no, I know, but I mean, that would be, right, places like Des Moines, Windsor Heights, you know, they are not, West Des Moines, they're not really rural adjacent.
They might just be afraid of all the UTV gangs that drive around.
I also talked to Chief McDaniel in Johnston, because I wasn't sure, as we were talking, we weren't sure if Johnston was or wasn't, you know, where they were at. And when I talked to him, I told him what we were, you know, what I was asking for. He says, oh my gosh, he said, this is really interesting to us, because he said, we also were talking about doing a task force, but we haven't gotten it going yet. And he asked if we would share all of the information that we've gotten and pulled together and researched to share that with him when we get to this point. So I said, yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was kind of neat that he was asking. about
Johnson
that.
might pay it.
Right?
Might
is
wanna
a
charge
big-
you, yeah.
I mean, to me, Johnston and Polk City, that was big for Polk City to pass it, in my opinion. And then also Johnston, you know, is so close to Des Moines, and I mean, Johnston is so big and spread out. So the fact that they are considering it also, I thought was a good sign. And Ankeny, I mean, Ankeny is huge, and they really have very few restrictions. I mean, Delaware, that you can't be on Delaware, that's a divided, 4-lane, Ankeny Boulevard, yeah, that's it, yeah, Ankeny Boulevard, yeah. And then I think they also included Delaware on that.
And there's the 2-year temporary.
Yes, which actually, you know what, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we did talk to, when I was talking to some of the cities, in fact, Polk City was one of them. They said initially they were talking about doing like a 2-year moratorium, so to speak, you know, in, putting that in there. And then they decided, you know what, why? I mean, if something's going bad, the city council is gonna come back together and say, hey, we need to look at this again. And if you don't put it on there, then somebody doesn't have to remember 2 years from now, oh yeah, we gotta get this done and get that done and get it on an agenda that's already full. And so they decided to omit it. So I thought that that was pretty interesting, but Ankeny did do it. And I think there was one other town that we researched that had a 2-year, and I can't remember which one that is right now. Okay. Okay.
My name is Casey Bright, 800 Hickory for my residence and 1030 Sunset for my business. So one thing I kind of looked at, because I wasn't for or against, I was just neutral. There's 2 things: the environment friendly, the noise level. I don't want a noisy one running through like the loud motorcycles. But the trends are showing currently that a lot of these units are starting to adapt to electric system. Currently, there's about 5 or 6 different companies out there that are backed by Tesla, Revyon, and a couple other, you know, Ford and stuff. And they're actually providing battery cells to completely make these things 0 decibels. Where
The hop, skip, and a jump from golf carts.
Yeah.
Thing, please.
so, but that is gonna take care of the noise level that you guys are concerned about. And there's a lot of residents who wanna do this that don't want a noisy, loud when they go to plow their snow. They don't want noise. So going to a battery pack, I have a solar panel. I helped 25 other houses in Norwalk get solar panels. And for me, I have a plug-in waiting ready for a battery powered UTV that's just sitting there. And then the other part was I talked to multiple police departments. My first reach out was some Chief Staples when I heard that they were trying to do stuff for this. And the other, and there was no recommendation for or against. He was very neutral. So I did my own research and I talked to about 7 different chiefs in Winterset, Indianola, there was Carlisle and a couple others surrounding Pleasantville, some of the smaller towns that really utilize these in their towns for farming. And not one of them had an accident report, a speeding report, or a nuisance. Every single chief, or there were a couple of them that were not chief, but they were kind of filling in because they didn't have a current chief. Every single police department said there was no issues, no nuisance. And they actually kind of questioned why we just didn't blanket pass all, like, kind of, you know, the ATV, UTV, and the snowmobiles, why we just didn't do what the states recommended for their. So that was kind of my take on this task force, where I wanted electric, quiet, but yet still be able to take advantage of the technology. And then the other part was whether or not the police force, because I took that very, very serious, where if it's going to be a nuisance, I'm not going to put it in my town. So, and there was not one nuisance report or incident report on their books for every, and I think it's in our findings, most of those towns, but I talked to police officers and police chiefs, and they're all for it. So that's it.
Thank you. Anything else from council?
Hey, good
We
presentation.
have an ordinance on the loudness of vehicles and well.
Cause it's a subjective, very hard to.
You have someone where the trucks come through, they can't use their Jake brakes or something.
Yeah, we do have a Jake brake.
That's good presentation. I appreciate it. It was very informative.
Would be, if, in the future though, if a task force, I'm automatically thinking, well, I just didn't get the con side because all of these are pros. So naturally, my antennas went up. This is kind of propagandish.
Yeah.
You need to include the cities that don't like it, cities that don't have it, cities that do have it, and, both the pros and the cons, and also try to figure out what the manufacturer's stance are.
Yeah.
That's going forward.
Okay.
That would be my only suggestion.
All right.
Set it there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. A lot of work. Yeah, thanks for all your work.
No, thank you.
Think of the coffee they went through.
No coffee. All right, moving on. Item number 5 is welcome guests and public comment. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate your participation in your local government. We'd open it up at this point in time for non-agenda items. If you want to comment, make a comment on something or address council on it. We'll give you 3-minute time limit on that. Realize we can't take action on that tonight since it's not on the agenda, and that would be a violation of the open meetings law. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item that's in the consent agenda, now would be the time. So come on up.
So as long as I was here tonight. Stephanie Reba, 3720 Blue Stem Road. A couple of years ago, when we approved the Shadow Creek Estates townhomes, part of that, I mean, it was a little controversial. That's on the west side of Beardsley, on the south side. Because there's some very nice homes on the Lakewood side of that, and there was concerns about the townhomes being there. And one of the things that helped me make the decision to vote yes for that was that there was supposed to be a 50-foot landscaping berm. And the trees and everything was going to be small initially, but it was going to grow up. Well, they did plant the trees, and I think every single one of them died. And then I was hoping that they would be replaced. Some of them were, and then in 2023, spring rolls around, they're all dead. And Elliot, I talked to him and he said that it's his understanding that some of the trees have been recently replaced. I can't tell if they were the deciduous trees that's fall. Everything looks dead, so it's hard to tell what's new there. But I can tell you that all the evergreens look horrible. And it's an entryway to our community. It was supposed to be done, you know, it's supposed to give some kind of a relief from that, the back of those units for the people across the street. So my request is it's really hard to enforce that now. The townhomes are built, but you have a lot of parts of Shadow Creek still to be built in that PUD. And so I request that when those other areas come forward for approval, that you consider not approving them until they fix the landscaping berm as it should have been put in initially for that first townhome portion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hi.
Good evening. My name's Leanne Coots, 2001 Serenity Circle, and I'm here to represent the Timberview development. My husband and I bought and built there in 2016. We love the development. It's a wonderful community and it's just about all built now. When we moved in, since we were the first one, we were told that there was land set aside for a park. And that was wonderful. They did plant trees. The trees look great. We were told that it would be a 2-year to 3-year process. I know money is always the factor. And I'm just here to represent the community and say we would like something to be done and maybe earmarked for 25 or 26 to at least bring that back to the table, see where we are with that. There's lots of kids out there. The community is just great. We have Facebook groups. It's just a lovely community and it's full of children and it would be really used, and you're asking for you to consider. And by the way, the UTV, that was great.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We have a presentation tonight for a Citizens Excellence Award. I'm going to come down here, so give me some time. It's really with a great honor that, I stand before you to recognize a truly remarkable individual whose tireless efforts have left a lasting impact on our community. We're here to celebrate someone who embodies the spirit of service, compassion, and selflessness, and that is Mr. Jim Lund. Jim and his wife relocated to Norwalk from Wisconsin in 2018 after retiring. They quickly embraced the community and within a few months began leading the Norwalk Food Pantry. For the past 4 years, Jim has dedicated himself as the coordinator of the Norwalk Food Pantry. During that time, you know, he could probably be classified as a full-time employee since he spent so much time and countless hours ensuring that those in need here in Norwalk never went hungry. That level of commitment is impressive. He was meticulous in his approach, making sure every detail of the pantry's operations ran smoothly. Jim's touched many countless lives, not only by meeting immediate needs, but also through his kindness and generosity that strengthens our community. During the pandemic, the pantry usage tripled, and challenges, social distancing and other related issues, Jim was able to overcome those pretty well. Jim's leadership was pivotal to the success of the food pantry and his legacy of service what he felt for a long time. He's also secured grants and managed the volunteers of the pantry. There was even a time when he brought his favorite cookies at his own expense from a bakery in Antigo, Wisconsin, to share with the pantry clients. Jim's also seen at many city events and where he's always smiling and encouraging. The city manager tells me that Jim asks great questions when he's during updates at the Opals group. It's a sign that Jim's involved and engaged in the community and what is happening here in Norwalk. The city would like to formally acknowledge Jim with the Citizen Excellence Award. This award symbolizes the gratitude and admiration of the entire Norwalk community for all that he's done. Jim, on behalf of the city of Norwalk and all those you have helped, thank you for your dedication, your kindness, and your service. You've shown us all the power of compassion in action, and we are very grateful. Congratulations and thank you for making our community a better place for all.
I must say that I'm absolutely surprised. I had no idea why I was being dragged here.
Was it UTV?
I thought it had something to do with my granddaughter.
I'm gonna be a little late on that.
Thank you. I'm glad they surprised me.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's guys like Jim that really kind of make our community work and that keep our small town feel that we have. So it's awesome. Thank you for all your hard work.
Welcome.
Okay, next. Tough act to follow. We have an audit presentation from Denman and Company.
That is a tough act to follow. Good evening. My name is Robert Enders. I'm a partner with Denman CPAs. Denman's had the privilege of doing the city's financial statement audit for the past several years. We were back on site here in the middle of August, excuse me. And we do have that audit report to share with you this evening. Rather than make you read that 60-page document, we're going to go through a quick PowerPoint presentation, make it a little easier to get through. We'll go over our independent auditors report briefly, talk about the financial results. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about our work on internal control and compliance and the single audit, uniform guided single audit that we went through this year as well. Beginning with the independent auditor's report, which you can find at the front of the audited financial statements, just a couple reminders in that 2 or 3 page letter. First, the financial statements we are looking at are management's financial statements. Management's responsible for ensuring that they're complete and accurate, that they conform with accounting standards, and that controls are in place to support the accuracy of management's financial statements. Our responsibility as the city's auditors is to perform that audit and to express an opinion on whether or not management's financial statements are accurate. For us to get to the point where we can express that opinion, we're going to obtain a host of audit evidence. We're going to look at supporting documentations. We're going to do analytical procedures. We're going to get independent confirmation of accounts and balances, make inquiries of staff, so that we have that audit evidence to have that audit opinion. We are issuing clean or unmodified opinions on these financial statements, which is the highest level of assurance our profession can provide regarding the accuracy to your financial. Jumping into those financials, it's really briefly here. You can see a quick snapshot, a summary of that statement of activities for the past fiscal year. Total cash basis revenues for the city in fiscal year 2024, a little north of 33.6 million. Last year's 55.6, really kind of an anomaly because of bond proceeds. So bear that in mind. There's a big swing there you're seeing. As far as cash basis expenditures, 48 million in cash basis expenditures compared to 38 million in the prior period. Capital projects being the overwhelming majority of that swing in activity. You're going to bond in 1 year, you're going to spend for a couple of years. And that's effectively what happened in fiscal year 2024. The more traditional operational costs, public safety, public works, other items, pretty stable growth, steady growth as you would expect for a city such as Norwalk, which is experiencing growth. And finally, the change in net position, the very last line item, again, you're going to see swings as you see bond proceeds get issued and then spent down. Taking a quick snapshot here of your fund balances, a couple items here that noteworthy. If you do all the math, there's about $38 million in cash balances here being reported. General fund balance, bottom left-hand corner, 3.8 million, being of course your primary operating fund. Capital projects being where all those resources are being placed for future expenditure. Toward the top, they're just short of 10 million. When we talk about fund balances, one of the best ways to evaluate that, particularly for your general fund, that primary operating fund, is to look at what the fund balance produces as far as cash on hand for expenditures. With the general rule of thumb being somewhere between 3 to 6 months being a healthy fund balance. So the city well within that range there, sitting at about 140 days. That's right about where Moody's would have a city for its highest bond ratings. So very healthy, very capable fund balance position. You don't want to get too high, of course, because that's a resource that you're not putting in the community. So this is a really very stable, very healthy fund position. Quick comment here on the footnotes here. So there's a good 20 pages worth of note disclosures that follow the financial statements. They're a really fun read. I do encourage you to grab a cup of coffee and get through them. Just to abbreviate a couple, one that we thought warranted a little bit more attention. I'll point you to note 3, which talks about the bonds and outstanding debt obligation of the city. There's about 10 bond obligations total outstanding, totaling about 45 million, which are payable through the year 2042. The city does have several development agreements that are disclosed there in note 12. Just short of $2 million were paid out on those development agreements here in the past fiscal year. And then finally, note 13, a new one that was added this year to the city's financial statements as a reminder to the readers that the city's authority to levy taxes is based on state law. So changes in state law have the ability to impact how the city can levy those taxes, which could have impacts on the city's finances.
That's unfortunate.
Truth. You do a lot of cities that are growing.
Very much so, yes.
How much counseling have you done on 718?
Counseling as in therapy sessions, quite a few.
Not actually. Proper handling.
Yes.
Understanding what to expect.
Sure. It is a little bit of an unknown yet still. We're still seeing the impacts of that. You can do the math and figure out the impact for a city that's growing. For a city growing at the highest rate, you're looking at a 3% reduction in that levy. But it is only reducing growth, right? So if you're a city that's not growing, you're not going to have an impact on that levy. Many cities still have a couple other levers that they can pull, and that's why some of it's still a little bit unknown. So some cities might be able to take advantage of their employee benefit levy to increase that levy as you see general fund levies going down. Or there might be some creativity you can have with your debt service levy, or creativity with what's being covered by your proprietary funds. And if there's charges for services, that might be able to cover lost general fund levies. With all that said, it's still a bit of an unknown until we see the applicability of this and how it's going to go into force. Quickly here on our work regarding to internal controls and compliance, along with that opinion on the financial statements we discussed a moment ago. Our profession does have a responsibility to gain an understanding of the city's controls, those procedures and processes that city staff use to prepare your financial statements, and also have some responsibilities over compliance. We're required to test certain compliance requirements to see if the city is compliant with those. In the current fiscal year, the city also had the privilege of going through what we call a uniform guidance or single audit, which is required when you expend more than $750,000 in federal funds. Under those standards, we are going to test your compliance with that federal program. There are up to 14 different compliance requirements that the city staff must maintain as to be compliant with that federal program. And then finally, not only do we test compliance with that program, we test the controls around that program. In other words, were you compliant, yes or no? And if you were compliant, why? Was it, ooh, we got lucky, or was there systems and processes that were in place to support a compliant program? So a little bit going on there. The box, the bottom left-hand corner, not to bury the lead, we did not identify any deficiencies in your controls. We did not identify any instances of non-compliance. So we can't really issue a cleaner audit opinion and audit report than what you have in front of you. Very last slide for you this evening. Along with the audit report, we do have a 2 or 3 page governance letter, which is our opportunity to speak to you as members of council that, regarding things that we think really warrant your attention. So I sometimes call this my dirty laundry letter. Issues, concerns, complaints I have about staff that we think warrant your attention. So these come up right here. I'm happy to show you all those no's and that start off with those bullet points. That means no, I do not have anything exciting in that governance letter. No, I don't have anything interesting to report. And I can assure you that if we ever had something interesting, you get a phone call from me before I'd surprise you in a council meeting. But again, very, very clean audit, very, very appreciative of the city staff who have been fantastic to work with. With that, can I answer any questions?
If you came more prepared next time. Yeah, thank you.
Of course, of course. Thank
I
you.
appreciate the presentation. It's accolades to our staff that does our financial management. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate working with Rob and his staff. They always make the process really smooth. You know, I think it's March is when this is due, but we get going early and we get everything done, and here we are November, and I think it's a team effort. Lindsay helps out a lot and everyone in the admin office, so we have a good group. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, well done.
Thank you. Okay, we're to item number 7, which is our consent agenda. Let's see, tonight we have expenditures, tax abatements, the November 7th, 2024 minutes of the regular city council meeting, the November 13th, 2024 minutes of the special city council meeting. We have approval of the fiscal year 24 annual financial report. A resolution to approve pay estimate number 3 to MMC contractors for the public safety HVAC project. Excuse me. We have a resolution to approve pay estimate number 4 to MMC contractors for the public safety HVAC project. A resolution to approve pay estimate number 7 to Alliance Construction Group for the Golden Valley Drive Improvements Project. A resolution approving utilization of premium bond proceeds for Public Works and Parks and Recreation Joint Storage Facility Project. We have a resolution approving a contract with Snyder and Associates to design and engineer a new Public Works and Park and Recreation Storage Building. We have a resolution approving the appointment of Carson Menke to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. We have a resolution confirming City of Norwalk construction of the Norwalk North River Trunk Sanitary Sewer, acknowledging Norwalk ownership and acknowledging compliance with the WRA 28E provisions. We have a resolution setting dates involved with the 2025 community cleanup event. A resolution to approve street patching contract. We have a resolution to approve change order number 2 for the public safety building HVAC project. We have a resolution to approve change order number 3 for temporary power needs at the Norwalk Fieldhouse. We have resolutions to approve several pay estimates for the Norwalk Fieldhouse project. I'm not going to read those. And we have monthly reports. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Okay, so motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Meineke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8, we have old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. So we have Item A is approve the fiscal year 2024 financial audit report. Earlier, we had Denman Company present the financial audit report. Thank you very much to Denman and Company for conducting the audit. Kudos to Gene for having such a clean audit for 2024. That's awesome. I'll turn it over to you, Gene.
Thank you. I just have a comment or two, if that's okay.
Yeah.
As Rob indicated, we had no material weaknesses, findings of non-compliance or internal control issues. We're very, very proud of that. And he did mention legislative changes or potential legislative changes. And as we know, we had House File 718 last year, and that's all we know right now. In our current year is when we had 24-cent reduction, which is automatic reduction in the general fund. We really didn't feel that this year because we had Echo Valley TIF drop off. So we had some extra funds there and that really helped out in that first year. Second year, we're gonna have another 24-cent reduction. We don't know what our growth number is gonna be. If it's 8%, 10%, 12%, we just have no idea. But we do believe we'll have probably a different situation this year. We won't have those excess funds. And then year 3 and 4 as well, we'll see another 22, 23 cents, whatever that adds up to. It's within 22 to 24 cents. We have commercial industrial development that's taken off in the last couple of years. It's been great. We got a lot of action going on. However, that is a long game. When staff talks about new taxes generated, much of this is being utilized for infrastructure in the form of rebates to developers. We are getting new tax money in our debt service fund, which that's great news. But the benefits to our general fund taxes are down the road. No one in this room will probably be here when these TIF areas expire, except maybe Lindsay, because she's so young. The next TIF district will expire in 2034, 10 years from now. I'm not saying any of these things to be doom or gloom. I just simply bring it up that if we don't see the valuations increase, we may have to make adjustments. And finally, we have decided staff that we won't do any budget meetings, CIP or operations and maintenance budget reviews with you until after January, or actually with anybody. And we're going to wait till the county numbers come in. Everyone knows where we're at when we get started. That's all I have.
On the second page of your overview, I just have a quick question. The admin staff is concerned that this is not sufficiently being conveyed as the amount of requests continues at a level that is consistent with requests prior to the legislative changes. Does that mean requests from managing department managers?
Like I said, I think that last year we had the TIF roll off, so I don't think the full effect was really felt. And so requests continue to come in,
I've
and
been
so
worried about this.
yeah, I think we'll just have to probably make adjustments. But if we grow a ton more than we think, then we may be okay.
Okay. Anything else from council? Any public comment? Can I get a motion to approve the 2024 financial audit?
Motion.
I'll give the motion to Baker, second to Livingston. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8C. It's first reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Norwalk, Iowa to address building permit expiration and refunds. So these changes are being presented due to the removal of the residential tax abatement. Luke, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yep. So when we did our action to, I guess, let the tax abatement expire or repeal it or whatever terminology that is, we had set in a couple dates for when it would be effective and then when things would have to be submitted to us. I think I sent it back out to everyone what that ordinance was, so you could take a look at that again. But essentially it was December 31st was you had to submit your permit with your application, and then you had to pay for that permit by March 1st. And that was an effort that we as staff came up together with an idea to help manage what may be an influx of permits from people wanting to get abatement. Well, we had some communication from a few builders asking what our refund policy was, under the idea that maybe they would just take all the lots they own now and submit permits on them and pay for them and then request refunds for them if they decided not to do that, which we told them, please don't do. That's, going to cause a lot of undue stress on us trying to get those approved and reviewed and all of that. And so from that point, we wanted to come back and take a look at really two things: our expiration policy, when does a permit expire, and then what our refund policy is. And when we took a deep dive into that, what we discovered is it was kind of hodgepodge around our code. For the most part, what I presented to you today is what we've always done. It just resides in different pockets of the code. This streamlines it all, puts it all in one section, makes all the other codes point to that section. So if we ever want to amend it in the future, it's a lot cleaner to do, especially for expirations. I'm not really proposing any change to what the expiration policy is other than getting it all in one space. Refund policy, similarly, very similar to what we do now. Refund has to be submitted within 180 days. It's only for permits where no work has commenced. You can't get a partial refund. The two new things that we are adding to this, primarily to control this situation of somebody maybe giving us 100 permits to look at by December 31st, is that we would limit, there would be a limit of 5 refunds per calendar year for any property owner or company or whatever. So really, hey, we're willing to give you refunds for things, but we don't want you to abuse this in especially in this abatement scenario. So really that one was our solution to that situation that we saw potentially happening was, okay, let's just codify that you only get 5 refunds.
What approximately ballpark, what is the amount due for an average home?
Permit wise, anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500.
And they have 3 months to put that together? You
Yes.
said if it has to be in by the 31st,
Yep.
it's not due until March?
Yep.
It might be self-limiting if we didn't give that such a wide berth. And move, if you had to pay that a little sooner.
Part of why we decided to give it 3 months was a kind of thought that December might end up having 50 or 60 permits put together. We still have to go through and review all of those. So I didn't want to give it like a month or a 2-week time frame because we still have to do the work to get it to the point where they can pay it, right? So that was more the 3 month was us wanting to give us time, not necessarily us feeling nice, wanting to be nice to them, right?
Presently, before we cancel tax abatement, how many refunds would you say you do?
For like an actual single family home, I don't think we've given one for several years. We usually end up giving refunds for trade permits where maybe one plumber pulls a permit for something and they hire somebody else. They switch things around. That plumber comes in and gets a refund for his plumbing permit.
So so I have a lot of questions, and I'm sorry, I really meant to call you today, but I just didn't. have
Okay.
time. So somebody does this, they submit their application for the building permit and the tax abatement,
Mm-hmm.
and then 3 months later, they have to pay for it. And so that first, the expiration policy, a permit expires 180 days if it's submitted to the city but not issued. Can you tell me what that means?
So submitted means you've handed us the permit and everything. Issued is we've reviewed it and you've paid for it.
So they have to, under the ordinance we passed, they have to pay for it by March 31st. So basically they have 3 months to pay for it. But if they haven't paid for it within 6 months, then it doesn't get, it expires.
Correct.
So do we routinely give them extensions to pay?
We
Cause that's the, right, that's what that would be. It would be. an
Yeah.
Extension, okay? Just, again, I'm just not arguing. I'm
No,
just asking
we
questions to
we
understand.
typically don't end up in situations where we have permits go beyond that. I mean, the common thing for somebody to do is submit a permit and then to pay for it and build it. So when we were putting this together, I had our staff take a look at all of our permits issued. Is there anything that was currently outstanding for things? Because again, because they get done, we don't have like a 6-month check where we go and look and see if anybody's missing, and we had 2. So there were 2 active permits that had been pulled and hadn't been paid for that were technically now expired. But again, in the past, we haven't been real sticklers at going through and doing that just for lack of need. Part of this is we'll start doing that, right?
The way
Okay,
I
so,
read that was you could extend the permit period, but the refund period.
Correct.
I didn't hear what you said, George.
You could extend the permit period, but not the refund period.
Right.
It would just be 6 months and then, so I think
I think maybe one other question. And tell me if I'm right here, is that you were wondering about the different inconsistency between 3 months and 6 months?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm
okay.
good. I'm-
Okay, you're good with that. okay.
Yep. So then they have 12 months to act on the permit. right?
12 months to complete the project.
Okay, but depending on certain circumstances, they can get an extension.
Correct.
Okay. And that's routine.
Yes.
And that probably happens a lot.
Yeah, not as much as you'd think, but yeah, it happens more frequently than an expiration.
Okay. And again, so the permit expires 6 months if they haven't done any work to start the project. And then they don't get a refund. They would have to pay for a new permit.
If they didn't request the refund during that time, then yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what does, when we charge the permit fee,
Mhm.
what is that to cover? Right? Because my understanding is, right, we bill for services that we
Yep.
provide. We don't make money on these permits because it's taking staff time.
Yep.
Okay, right? So
Yep.
is there anything else that goes into that fee?
So the permit fee is primarily intended to cover our cost to provide the inspection services for that permit. There's also the admin work and some of those soft costs at the beginning and at the end to kind of wrap it up and all of that. Our permit fee also includes things that we bill at the time of permit that aren't related to those. Capital charges for water and sewer. I think those are the 2 main ones. A sidewalk fee, connection to the public street fee, approach fee for driveway. So there are other smaller costs that are part of that overall permit fee package.
Most other smaller costs, easy enough to itemize separately.
So yes, they're all itemized separately in our permitting software right now. The way we've done refunds in the past is we take your lump sum at the bottom and then we're not taking just the permit calculated fee. It's your total amount is what you're getting refunded.
Right. So that's where my problem comes.
Okay.
Right? So I understand all of that. I don't agree that unless it's a city issue, unless the city does not get the permit issued, going back to bullet point number 1.
Mhm.
If the city does not get the permit issued because of a city issue, then I appreciate giving them 60 more days or not, 3 more months. But if it's their doing, I do not appreciate giving them 3 more months.
And we're just talking in that scenario, you're talking about the limited time frame that we have now where we're ending tax abatement.
I'm talking about in general, but yes, we can focus on the limited. time
Well,
we're talking about tax.
I guess I don't know. I'm missing maybe where the 3-month, you said, I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, okay, you're right. So it's only the tax abatement that they have the 3-month period. Otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise it's just always a 6
Fair
month.
enough.
Yeah,
So
that's, yeah, okay.
Yes is the answer to your question. Okay, so then my second issue is that I have zero interest in having city employees do $2,000 worth of work. For instance, right? I think you said, what'd you say, 25?
25 to 30, 2,000 is fine. Yeah,
So if
that's
they
good.
do $2,000 worth of work and 500 is the other fees that you talked about, right? The connection fees or whatever else. I think I'm not in favor of us reimbursing $2,000. It's work that we did, that
Mhm.
you did. It's work that was, it's time, energy, and if they want to submit all these permits so that they can get their tax abatement in, I see absolutely no reason that they should get a refund for the work that's done. If we refund them the $500 for whatever those fees are, I have no problem with that because they haven't used them
Mhm.
and there's no work that's put into it. But you giving free labor so that they can take it back is not okay.
And I
Does
have,
that make sense?
that does 100%. And I apologize if I don't know if the detail made it into the actual staff report. I did not include in there that the refund is 80% of the total cost. So what I did,
Still not okay with me.
okay, but just, so that's what our current policy has been for refunds, has been, we refund 80%. I did do a pretty generous analysis of what I assume our staff spends from an admin level, from all the way to Elliot spending time on it when he reviews plans and everything, and try to enumerate that cost just to see how well it matched up with us keeping 20%. And those numbers seem reasonable to me.
So what you're saying is that the amount of work you do is 20% of the cost that they get assessed?
It's 20% of the amount up to the point where they can request a refund. Right? So that 80%, that's all the cost for us to do inspections, but they can't get a refund once once they started doing work and we're inspecting the building. So they can only get a refund before they start work. So the only time we've spent on that permit is our admin review, getting it in the system amount of time, which I believe the 20% covers our cost during that.
That's how I read it.
Thank you for that clarification.
That's how I read it.
Other questions, comments for Lou?
That's a good conversation.
I have a comment for Jackie. I appreciate the fact that you recognize that as staff time put into something.
Yes.
Being billed
Yeah.
for. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to make sure that we recoup that. It's a fine line working between do we keep money for a permit that we didn't end up doing any work for, right? Because but at some point you have to draw that line in the sand, right? If you dig a hole and start doing the footing and then you stop the project, you don't get any money back, and we've never inspected anything, but you have to have a line somewhere.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you for going through it with me. At the meeting.
Yep.
My other question would be, with three, is 5, you said, a limit of 5?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, does it make that much difference, and would it help if it was 3 as a maximum? I mean, you said we don't have these very often.
Yeah, I
Kind
mean,
of asking for
I think at that point, you're just kind of picking a number.
Okay.
Our builders that do a lot in town maybe do 40 permits a year, 50, your DR Hortons that are coming in and doing a lot of stuff. Your more custom builders might only do 3 or 4 permits a year. So, 5 seemed reasonable to us that we can take that through. And a lot of it, when we settled on 5, was what do we feel like we can process for each builder if that's what they drop in our lap at the end of this whole abatement thing, right? So,
I think that's fair.
yeah, I think if they did that, we probably are issuing 10 to 15 refunds. Because there's only a few builders that are large enough that they would attempt to do that, right?
But again, right, so the context of 3 months, right? Because that's really what we're talking about for the tax abatement part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what seems to be, right? They want to get all these in before they lose that opportunity. So, I mean, I get 5 refunds over a calendar year, but that also suggests they get 5 refunds in that 3-month period. They don't get any more of the rest of the year, right?
Correct.
And so that seems like a lot in 3 months.
I have no ownership of that number. If you guys feel it needs to be less, I'm quite all right with that too.
Is it reasonable? And I have no idea. Is it practical to say, 2 per quarter? Or 3 per quarter? Because frankly, then that gets us through. Right? You get 2 during this tax abatement. 3
Yeah.
months. I don't know if that's practical or not.
I think we're just gonna, this is a one-time issue.
I understand, but I'd like an answer to my question from the professional in the area.
If you were gonna do it if you were gonna do it in a time frame different than a year, I would probably do it for a 6-month. Because one of the things we were a little worried about when we started talking about, when we say per calendar year, well, are they gonna come and ask for 5 this year and then wait and then ask for another 5 next year, right? Well, and then that's what sent us down to, well, we need to understand expiration policies, right? So that brought us around to expiration. So since everything's on a 6 months time frame, if they're March 1, then they're done with any permit. If they don't do anything, that 6 months starts there. They're done in September, and that doesn't give them the opportunity to come and ask for 2 rounds of refunds.
Why did you pick the number 5?
I think it was an arbitrary discussion with Luke and I.
Yeah,
It's
Because you started to say, if you want to go less, that would be fine with me. So I'm just trying.
I think we picked 5 because we weren't making a policy solely for tax abatement.
correct.
So we expanded the policy to beyond tax abatement for a permanent good policy that the department could rely on. And with that, we thought 5 would be reasonable because there could be, developers that honestly, truly believe they're gonna get 5 in, they turn it in, and suddenly you have a crash in the market. Something like that. So we really wanted to pick a number that stopped a company from trying to take advantage of the council saying, okay, you have 3 months to get it in. And I think one thing to also understand that maybe I didn't understand when we first passed it was that the 3 months isn't kind of saying, okay, you owe this money when you make the application, we're gonna give you a 3-month grace period to pay it. What that is they submit the permit, and then the city's got to review and approve the permit. And that through that review and approval of the permit, that's how the permitting fee is determined, because it's square footage, certain amount of electricity. So it might take a month to review and come back and say, okay, as a result of our review, this is how much you owe for the permit. So the reason why the 3 months were there was because I think when this discussion was had, if there was a little bit of an influx on those, Luke wanted to make sure his department had time to clear everything, get all the reviews done, and give the contractor a chance to pay it within 3 months. So I think that's why the 3 months was there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm still
So the number,
baffled about the 5, but.
So yeah, the 5 was just simply, we didn't want somebody to look at it and say, okay, if they're can get 80% back, because realistically, when we looked at it, probably 20% of the work was done by the time the permit was issued. We didn't want a company to go on and say, well, that's okay, we're still getting 80% back, so we're gonna still put it in 100 permit applications, because they might have still done that. So we wanted we wanted to avoid the abuse of the process.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
okay.
understand all that.
Okay.
theory. I just was wondering where and
I mean, I think
less is better. What is the less number?
legitimately 5 came from, what about 5? We talked about that number. 10 would be too much because again, in a year, you maybe have 30 or 40 permits from one business. When we have somebody that's doing a lot of permits, and then thinking if they dumped a bunch of in our lap, so maybe that business does 60 or 70 this year. 10 seemed like too much to let them to do. 1 or 2 seemed like you were penalizing people that legitimately needed to. So then, okay, 5 seems like a reasonable number. My lack of ownership to that is because that's how we came up with it. And I didn't do a detailed analysis to say 5 is the number it has to be for reason X, Y, Z.
so you had a swag.
A swag.
scientific wild ass guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point of the thing is, what do you think your staff could reasonably handle? Looking at capacities, right? Because that's what we're talking about is capacity.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you think 5 puts you in the room there where, given the number of developers we have and how many
Yep.
permits we usually go through, if you think that seems reasonable.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's why we've presented 5 to you is because we did do that. We have talked to our staff
Okay, all right.
and our ability to handle that and how many businesses would decide to do that. And, you know, what does that look like? And yes,
Okay, I just want to make sure it
That
wasn't,
regard, we
wasn't
did.
because the city attorney pressured you.
no,
And,
I never let Jim pressure me.
Other questions, comments?
Just the other thing that's new to our policy about this is we did give the director authority to refund in cases of undue hardship. We thought if we were going to limit permits and do or limit refunds, that there should be an ability for us to identify that somebody had some unknown issue happen in their life that has caused the need for a full refund and give us the ability to do that.
Just as long as you do it, spin.
We will be watching.
Fair enough.
Do you have any public comment? Motion?
Second.
Okay, so motion by Baker to approve the first reading, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Cool,
yes,
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8D, it's first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 177 rates and fees for the Norwalk Municipal Code, providing for the additional fees for the Norwalk Fieldhouse. So these changes are to add a category for the Norwalk schools to include no overall rental fee, but there's going to be costs for staff members and there will be a charge for that. Robin, I believe your intent is to match the service the school district has done for us for many years when we use their facility.
Yeah.
Okay. Got any more? Anything else you want to add? Okay.
Oh,
Any discussion, comments, questions from council?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston to approve the first reading, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool.
yes,
All right, motion carries. Item 8E. Second reading of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the Norwalk urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa for the Dunn Industrial. So this ordinance creates a TIF district for the Dunn Industrial Condominiums project south of Delaware Street. That's at 1050 Madison Street, and allows the city to capture taxes from non-protected levies to provide economic development incentives. Gene Kelly, or Holly.
I have,
You have anything to add?
I have nothing to add.
Nothing new.
Okay, questions, comments from council or public comment?
Second.
All right, motion by Livingston to approve the second reading, second by Brown. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
yes,
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8F. It's final reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning 9086 South of Rillow Road from AR Agricultural Reserve to R160 Single Family Residential. So this is the third and final reading of a zoning amendment for a residential property on South of Rillow Road. As said, from agricultural reserve to R160. The property defaulted to the AR zone when it was annexed into the city in 2007. The property owner would like to build a new accessory structure on the lot, and the R1 zoning designation would accommodate the proposed structure. Luke Paris, anything else to add?
Nothing new.
Any discussion, questions, comments?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Could we have done this last time with 2 readings at the same time, or why do we have to go to 3? Just out of curiosity.
You could have done it you could have waived the third reading at the last meeting.
Okay. Just
We usually, with a lot of these, there's 3 readings just to allow public to make a comment.
Iowa code requires 3 readings. And that needs to be passed by a majority of the council. we're at 3 separate readings unless the council decides to waive any of those readings, which require super majority, which for this council before.
Oh.
So you can waive subsequent ones with 4 votes. So you can pass it on one reading and waive the last 2 if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But traditionally, the city
We've
council
done it
chose
before.
not to do that.
We
Yeah.
try to limit that.
Okay.
We used to do it a little more frequently and then somebody said, why? So
Yeah.
generally now we discourage it.
And they're right. They are.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Second.
Okay, motion to approve final reading by Livingston, seconded by Brown. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8G is final reading of an ordinance amending chapter 53, open burning regulations within the city limits of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by amending sections 5302 and 5304 of the Norwalk Municipal Code. So this is the final reading of an item that allows the fire chief some flexibility with special permitting to allow open burning in certain circumstances. The proposed ordinance details various rules and includes a limit on open burning to properties containing 5 or more contiguously owned acres of ground, and shall be for the burning of grass or other organic plant material grown on and or collected from the parcel upon which the fire is located. So Chief or Jim, do you have anything to add?
The only thing that I wanted to add was that, I know Councilmember Baker had asked if we've been to Echo. Since last meeting, we did go out there and speak with them as well, and, they were happy with the ordinance, so I wanted to make sure I followed up on that, nothing further.
All right, thanks. Any other questions, comments from council or public comment? Motion? Motion by Baker for the final reading, and I'll give the second to Minneke. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke, Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 9, future agenda items. So the purpose of this item is for council to give direction to staff by way of motion to have items placed on future agendas. This is not for the discussion of the merits of the subject matter. It's just to get stuff on to an agenda so that we can talk about them and discussion of the merits. So Luke's asked me to bring up the 2024 strategic vision. He's assembled the results of our planning session with Monty, and he shared it with all of us. I would like to propose a future work session where we can work with all of our staff to clarify and finalize the strategic vision. Until that time, you can all review the document. Please review the document and make your own notes and share with the group. So that will be on a future agenda.
Yep.
Okay. Any other future agenda items for tonight?
Any idea how soon?
Probably be
I
next.
mean, I would think
next work
we need
session.
to
I
do
think
that
we could do
before
it
the CIP.
December, probably December.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other future agenda items for tonight, such as UTV?
UTV? Yeah, we should get that on the agenda.
So you'll make a motion to put UTVs on an agenda.
I would like to make a motion to put, I don't know what you would call it.
UTV discussion.
Yeah,
Just the UTV discussion.
UTV discussion.
Okay, so I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So
Yeah, discussion. I'm fully in support of that. I don't, we spent a lot of time in the past debating this issue. So I would like, when we put it on the agenda, to have a rough draft of an ordinance. And have the same, that discussion at the same time.
okay, so that's an amendment to the motion. So,
But I'm very agreeable to.
so you would second the amendment to the motion? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so the motion's been amended. I had a motion by Brown and a second by Cool for putting it on the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. We'll get it on an agenda.
And also with the understanding for the staff that they may have questions to answer on the run up.
Yeah, I'm confused with that.
You know, we may ask that additional information be provided to us in the discussion.
Yeah.
That this group did not present to us.
Which is kind of interesting because, right, what I heard was, can I keep talking about this?
Yeah.
Okay. what I heard was they talked to, I didn't count, but I'm gonna say 10 or 12 communities. And the feedback was, well, you didn't talk to the ones who said no. When they talked to 10 or 12 communities. Seems to me like they did, my observation, they did a pretty exhaustive job. And my observation also is that we have previously been presented with all of the reasons why not to. That's just my.
That is not what I said. But
Okay.
I did comment that we didn't include the statistics of those that were. That's fine.
And
It's semantics, but just don't put.
three of us have been presented in the past with the things that might be considered negative, but two haven't, right? And it's possible it's been long enough, maybe some of that stuff's been updated, maybe it's changed.
That's what I was anxious to see.
So, yeah.
Yes.
I have that note on my sheet to do that research about from manufacturers.
Thank you.
So it's gonna be, yeah, so it'll be discussion and possible action.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we have questions, then we can table it and
Right.
staff can research and
Sounds good.
on the next agenda. Okay. Any other future agenda items? Hearing none, we'll go on. Council inquiries and staff updates. Luke.
Yes, I have a few items. I'll start out by saying, for the folks from the task force, specifically Carol, to be aware that I will reach out to you as far as that draft ordinance, just so you know. Crystal Ellis, they are doing a going away event for her. This is on Sunday. Ed, Travis Stanley asked specifically if you'd be willing to present. I've got a proclamation over here. Throw this up on the screen so you can see the invite. I can zoom in so you can see the date. It's on Sunday. I think they have the time on here where it's at. The mayor and I weren't able to make that on Sunday, Ed, but Travis wondered if you'd be willing to be there to present this proclamation.
I see the homemade pie on.
Sold.
Yeah, I'm sure I could pull that off.
Okay, I'll pass that along to Travis
Thank you.
Stanley. And also for anybody else that wants to attend that, the information is there on the screen. I'll be traveling with family next week for Thanksgiving week, so I will be actually out of the state for that week. The budget, I'm glad that Jean brought that up, that we're going to be a bit delayed. So this is a little bit different than we've done in the past. So if you're looking back at old calendars and saying, hey, why aren't we seeing something, even for the department heads that are used to working out a lot of the budget stuff prior to the first of the year, and that we are purposefully delaying that until we know exactly what our numbers are. Jean and I have pulled our hair out long enough trying to predict what numbers are going to be, predicting the legislatures, and we just can't do that.
I explained that to a couple of tables full of citizens at my last time I had breakfast. And they looked at me with dazed looks. But I explained to them, it's not so much the absence of information, but when it comes to us. Right? And for us, a lot of those things are backwards sometimes.
So Jean, I appreciate you bringing that up. The last thing I'll mention is that I'm working to set up meetings with several of our partners. As you know, with the elections completing, we have some new people coming in down at as county supervisors. I am specifically setting up meetings with Brian Arnold and Aaron DeCook. They are both now the county supervisors that have a district that covers the Norwalk area. I also have reached out to Stephanie Erickson, currently Mayor Erickson in Indianola. We've just worked with her quite a bit. I said it'd be nice if we just sat down and gave her kind of county to city perspective. And then Travis DeWitt is the other new member coming on board as county supervisor. The other one that I've reached out to is Samantha Fett. She is an incoming representative for the House at our state legislature. And I specifically said in the email, my request isn't to ask her for anything, but simply just to try to understand her goals and what she wants to accomplish and how we can be partners with her. So if anybody's really interested in being part of those meetings, let me know and I'll certainly send an invite. Mayor Brian.
I would with Samantha Fad. I'm interested in that one.
I will include you in those invites. Mayor, that's all I have. Thanks.
Yeah, Jackie.
No, nothing.
Jason.
Yeah, two things. Had a really nice coffee with Gene Strabel last week. And one of the things I was coming away with is it's hard for me to imagine having somebody who cares more about the welfare of the library than Gene. So it's really good to know. You know, you have competent people and you also have people who like really, really care. And that makes me feel good. Second thing is, I went to my first MPO meeting tonight. And it was, 5:25 and I had to go. It was, interesting. So, but I'm looking forward to being on that group.
Are they gonna finally start mailing stuff to you? Cause this time I forwarded it from me to you.
Yeah, I think I actually know who to contact for sure.
I've written them back like 3 times.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. All right. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was.
He didn't say he enjoyed it. He
No,
said-
I did.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
I know.
there's just so much to learn.
There is. Yeah, there is. A lot. Lindsay.
It's nothing for me.
Robin?
Reminder that tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. is the grand opening of the City State Bank Norwalk Fieldhouse. I hope you're all planning to attend.
Mhm.
I'll be there. Holly.
I'll pass.
Yeah, Gene. Strabel.
Well, neither one of them, I didn't just say.
We do, but we're saving time.
Okay. Gene Strabel.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, did Holly, Gene Kelly, what'd you say? Nothing? Chief.
Yes, our accreditation process is ongoing. We're about done with our policy revisions and drafts. We have just a few more to go with the deadline of being done with that aspect of it by the end of this year, which will then allow us to make the policy changes and start putting in proofs. 3 of us went to a CALIA conference last week, learned quite a bit, gave us the basic background knowledge of what it's going to take and what the assessors eventually will be looking for, so we won't have any issues. So I'm excited about that project. And then Cops with Carts is scheduled for December 4th, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. We'll be at the new Fairway. If you're interested in helping us raise money or food for the food pantry, we'd appreciate it. If you'd rather not do the shopping, we will, just need money. So when the going gets tough, the tough go shopping. So I guess that's it.
Thank you. Chief.
Tuesday, we held a swearing in ceremony for 3 of our full-time firefighters and 1 lieutenant who had completed their 1-year probationary periods. So that was a nice event for the families. I think those type of events are important to fire departments. We're going to continue doing those. I wanted to give an update also on the Safe Haven Baby Box. We've done some soft fundraising with some of the civic organizations between Hunter Men of Norwalk, Women of Norwalk, Knights of Columbus, and City State Bank. We've raised almost half of the funds that we were looking to raise. The next step we're at is we're going to be securing some engineering and construction. And then we hope to launch that to the community fundraising portion of it the first of the year. So thank you for everybody up there that kind of helped with that endeavor with the Hunter Men of Norwalk. I was really excited. My phone started blowing up with all these texts. That was exciting news.
What did you tell them to make the check out to?
The Norwalk Firefighters Association.
Association.
Yeah, And I did clarify that with, I think Chief had given me the information for that. We do have kind of a letter of support if anybody wants to put, or letter kind of to put out if people are wanting to support it. It can either run through the foundation at the bank. George, remind me what that fund's called, charitable giving fund, something of that nature. Or the fire association, yeah, kind of taking donations in both locations. So again, we still have a few more things to button up before it goes live to the public, to the community. We're hoping here by the first of the year. So, thank you.
Thanks. Wayne.
Nothing.
Luke.
Just want to revisit the comment we had this evening about the buffer at Shadow Creek. We are aware that's an issue as well. We've tried to be pretty proactive with it since it went up and make them replace trees and do things. And Stephanie is correct. They continue to die. So we will continue to make them plant them. Yeah, and so, what I'll likely do with our next one is, we're gonna make that a more of a attention item with their next phase of whatever they're doing. So we'll get their, hopefully better attention with that. Other thing I said was, anecdote about the whole House File 718 stuff and everything. I had a developer in today talking about, the time to review projects and issue permits and all that stuff, and how the city has people that have multiple tasks and, they might be out doing inspections and they just would like to be able to have one person. The city should just really hire one more person that can just do reviews. So I just thought that was quite interesting given the environment that we're working in right now. Not asking for anybody new, Gene, just saying that's what they're telling me.
Mm-hmm. Always increase their fees.
Yeah, we could.
Pay for it. All right, Ed.
Just one thing. Next week is the last week for grass bag pickup.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm sure that information has gone out, but it wouldn't hurt to put it out again.
Yeah. Sure. And it was extended to.
Yeah, so if you got any leaves, good time to get rid of them.
All right.
Otherwise, they'll come back again in December, pick up the Christmas trees.
January.
Yeah, January.
January.
You could do it then.
All right. Super. George.
Spent a lot of time on the Central Iowa Waterworks and, they're all fired up to business up January 1st and did a few tours of the Grimes plant and the Oak City plant, which is probably historical, probably at least 50, 60 years apart.
Really?
One's new, one's really old.
Yeah.
It's interesting to then see how both work, and which the Grimes is highly advanced. And, it was very interesting. Again, I always tell people, appreciate your water.
Yep.
It's not easy.
It is not. Sure. Thanks. Brian?
I guess I just, and this is more what Lindsay's done, but the annexations proceeding. A lot of notices went out last week. I think Lindsay killed about 4 or 5 trees on that one. It was boxes of notices. Because some of them had to be sent out ordinary mail, some of them had to be sent out certified mail, some had to be sent out certified and ordinary mail. And it's kind of crazy. It's gonna be one of the biggest, also probably one of the biggest publications you've ever seen in North Warren Town and Country News by the time that entire legal description is put in place. Yeah, we gotta, it's all gotta be notified there, but it's absolutely progressing on schedule and you guys will be involved with it here in a meeting or two.
And I understand, Lindsay, you had a call from somebody.
Do you want me to elaborate?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Please.
I had a call from one of the many adjoining property owners and they want to annex their land. So Jim is researching whether or not we can do that without resending notices to all, or if we should just do it separately, but very shortly after this one.
Yeah, I think it will end up being a separate one, so you council very well might see, following up on the back end of this one, another voluntary annexation for the different property owners to call and say, boy, we'd like to be included. So I think we'll get that. Yep. For the audience members, it's 3,200 acres of annexation between here and the Interstate 80 or 35.
Yes. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
I just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving next week. That should be good. Make sure you eat a lot and then take naps. I want to thank Jackie for being, for running the meeting last time. Let's see if I can share this. I don't know if I.
You guys have done very quickly. last
Am
meeting.
I sharing that?
You are sharing.
That is why I was
You're right
gone.
along.
That is Mallory Ames Phillips. She was born on October 31st, around 9:15 p.m.
All right.
She's 21, well, she was 21 and a half inches long, I think is what it was. She was 8 pounds, 15 ounces. So. Congratulations. Yeah,
That's awesome.
but
Pretty
that's why
nice.
I was- That's
Pretty
why I was
nice.
gone last night.
Well, we're.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Grandpa.
Do you have a new grant?
Have a great
Great.
grandpa. Yeah.
I got one within the next 2 weeks. Yes.
Awesome. You'll have to learn how to throw a picture.
I know, there you go.
All right. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Thank you. Okay, so I got a motion by Baker to adjourn, second by Livingston. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. We're adjourned, 7:44 PM.
All right, not bad. I thought it was gonna be longer.